Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of E-commerce Mastery. I'm your host, Ben Gothard, and today we have the honor of speaking with Mr. Michael Maher. How you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Ben?
I am wonderful, and I'm so excited for today's episode. And just to give everybody a breakdown of what you can expect moving forward here, as far as the show goes. One, we're going to talk about Michael's story and see the different pivots that he did in order to evolve his business and hop on into the Amazon ecosystem and become a powerhouse in the Amazon advertising world. Two, we're going to really break down two fundamental concepts. One, we're going to talk about how to view Amazon as a part of your overall retail strategy. And we're going to dive into some really interesting pieces, one of which is going to be the importance of omni-channel marketing and omni-channel selling. And then two, we're also going to talk about, now that we have a vantage into how to view Amazon as part of your strategy, we're going to talk about how to operate most effectively in that landscape. So you're going to get an idea of what it is and how you should be viewing it. And then you're going to get some how-tos, some super practical operational guidance. And then finally, we are going to go ahead and wrap it on up and learn about the best way to connect with Michael. So without any further ado, Michael, I'd love to hear your story.
Thank you so much, man, for introducing me. And I'm glad you're so excited. I'm excited to chat as well. I honestly could talk about Amazon for a long time, and sometimes, I'll overload people with information. So it's good to get a chance to just kind of converse with someone about that. I got started in e-commerce because I hated the job that I was at. I am a musician turned business owner. I wanted to make it big as a musician, and that never worked out. Even at one point dropped out of college to focus on this one band that I was in and wanting to move that forward. And as soon as I dropped out, the band broke up. So it was interesting, but totally needed, and a little bit of a knock to my pride, but that's one of the things that I can do with that. And that I've been learning to get around. So I was working at actually at Starbucks, and after I graduated school, I was like, I'm just going to move up here and see what's going on. Cause I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I worked my way up to be a store manager, and I loved the concept around third place and coffee. And that started a love of coffee for me that I have continued to this day. But once I got into that store manager role, after about a year, I was like, I hate this. It's working my way up was cool. But once I got to that place, I was the gap between corporate and all of the in-store needs. And the corporate piece was frustrating because you're getting stuff from outside the store, getting direction that has probably had some research behind it and people have tested, but it's hey, we're changing things and moving it into this direction. Even so much as getting down to the nitty gritty, like you're gonna steam this and do this, and there was all this direction, and I'm getting pushback from my team in the store, which is great from a knowledge standpoint, managing people. I learned a ton about giving feedback to people, like what the wrong feedback is, what the right feedback is, how to deliver it, all that kind of stuff. So it was super helpful for me, but it was very frustrating because you're dealing with these store demands, and that's a real local environment. And then you've got this corporate entity that's kind of breathing down your neck as well.
So you're in no man's land at that point.
Yeah, kind of. You feel very alone, and except for other store managers. I had a good boss. She left, and I got another boss that was not so great. And I was like, I went out. Anytime I give feedback, it was not welcomed or accepted. But I don't want to dwell on the past because it really was a good opportunity to get my feet wet managing people and knowing, some good and some bad things. But as a musician, I would buy and sell music equipment. Sometimes I would go to a pawn shop. A lot of times I would buy stuff on eBay and it might need help. And so I would need some work done on it. So I'd fix it, or I'd figure out how to fix it and then flip it for a profit. So I had that skill set, and I knew a friend who had started an e-commerce business on eBay. And so I thought, okay, this is an opportunity. I'm going to ask him what he did. And so I consulted with him and said, look, man, like, help me get into this. I hate what I'm doing. He actually did not like his job so much either. He was an accountant and started his own thing, and basically did that while he was working this full-time job, which is what I ended up doing. Took a kind of traditional route, went to trade show, bought some inventory, had done some research. The research tools were somewhat limited back then. And I launched on eBay, and I learned a ton of lessons the hard way, because I did not major in business. I majored in Asian studies, and it's a very generalized degree, and I should have probably double majored, but I wanted to get out of school. So I just completed, I sat down with my advisor and said, okay, what degree can I get with what I currently have? Probably about halfway through, and ended up deciding on that, and pivoted a couple times, but eventually wound back up with that degree. But I had no formal business training. Starbucks was also good because I understood what a P&L was, how to read it, not so knowledgeable, but there was a lot of just stuff I was wet behind the ears. I didn't know what a balance sheet was. Didn't really understand finances. I didn't understand how money worked. Like, credit cards are not loans. For anyone out there who thinks they are, you're in for a rude awakening. But I just made a lot of mistakes, and I'm okay with that now. But something that I realized as I grow is, you got to just ask for help. Anyone that's an entrepreneur, or anyone that's really in any situation, don't be afraid to ask for help. Everybody needs help. If you deal with the right people, you're going to get to where you're wanting to go quicker if you get the right help, as opposed to trying to do it on your own. And there's no award that I know of, monetary, physical, whatever, that you get for doing something all by yourself. And honestly, nobody does anything all by themselves. So I started this business and did it for about a year while I was working this full-time job at Starbucks. And I was able to get it to a place where I could do that full time. And so I was able to walk out the door, and it felt so good. I remember walking out that last day feeling so good, like free, like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. And as soon as I left, I had more time. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to launch on Amazon. So I got on Amazon. That grew after the first couple months and figuring out what I was doing. That grew so much. It ended up becoming like 70% of our revenue. And I expanded into our own website, created a couple brands. Some failed, some were mildly successful. And I did that for 6 years. The business grew every single year, oftentimes double or triple digits. And, we had a good run. And in 2015, Amazon opened the market to Chinese sellers. So people from China and manufacturers basically could sell directly to Amazon or through Amazon. And one of my main products, the market just got flooded with Chinese sellers and people that were selling it what my cost was. It was really hard to maintain. And because of some of the financial mistakes I made, I did not have the cash flow to sustain that. So in 2016, things really started going downhill, and I freaked. I eventually got to a place where I realized, okay, I can't pay myself anymore. And I had, earned a decent salary for the past 6 years. So, that was concerning. And I actually, one of the things when I left Starbucks that somehow I got in my head, one was that my business, how my business was doing is how valuable I am as a person. And the other thing was in the work that I was doing and not understanding a lot of some of the financial stuff, I just made a lot of mistakes, but what I thought was ultimate failure was like I would have a nightmare basically that I was working in Starbucks again, and that was one of my nightmares. So so what's interesting is I ended up, you know, I was like, I can't pay myself. Right around that time, I knew I needed to get another job while I figured out what I was going to do. And so I got an offer to help run a coffee shop, um, which I accepted because I had nothing else. And it was super helpful at the time. It was a very difficult 11 months, but I felt like I'd failed because I had ended up back in this coffee shop. And throughout that time period, I very quickly pivoted to doing freelance and consulting work and took on all kinds of e-commerce projects, SEO, social media marketing, Amazon, everything. And I liked the work with Amazon. It made sense. And I liked that it was all inside kind of this one hemisphere. And so I was like, I'm going to start targeting more of these projects, and very quickly realized there was a huge need for those projects to be done. And there was just a lack of knowledge of how Amazon worked. And so I took on as many projects as I could, got a better understanding of what some of the needs were, and started to scale. I had, you know, erased, you know, a lot of the mistakes I made for the e-commerce side of the business, debt that I had, and was able to start over a little bit more fresh. And it was a great opportunity because it got me to face some of my fears, like going and working something else, which didn't mean I had failed, but it allowed me time to grow my business and to scale it as I needed, and was able to, you know, eventually leave that other role and really focus on building this agency. But I had to scale something that was service-based and not product-based, and I was not used to that. And so that was a challenge as well. So it was actually a really great opportunity to realize that I'm not just worth what my business is. I'd really been trying to push what my agenda was. And I really felt that whole year was God's way of saying, like, you need to kind of step out of the way, and you need to do what is really best for you. And so I got out of the way and just did the work, and, you know, saw the demand there, grew the agency, and we've gotten to the point now where we've, you know, experienced some good years, we've experienced some bad years over the past 4 years. And we've really honed in on what a successful service model is for helping people on Amazon, helping brands to grow, and ultimately to be profitable. Because 7-figure and 8-figure sellers, that sounds super cool, but if you're not profitable, you're not sticking around for very long. That goes for our business. That goes for, you know, any brand, any business. So we've been able to hone in on that and really get into people's businesses and uncover the value that is found with Amazon. And I kind of see ourselves as translators. We're translating what, you know, this one brand, how they speak, what their product is, what problem it's solving, and turn that into something that's successful on Amazon. And that's where we, you know, where we are today.
What I love about that story is that you have experience both running an e-com business and being an advisor and a service provider to e-com businesses. And so you have optics from a few different angles, and you've been doing this for a very, very long time. So you've also seen how the Amazon landscape has evolved over time. And I think that gives you a really interesting perspective into it. So with that being said, let's dive into the meat and potatoes here. Let's talk about our 2 parts.
Okay.
Part 1, let's understand how we should be viewing Amazon as part of our overall retail strategy.
Yeah. I talk a lot about future of retail, both to people that I meet, you know, in my LinkedIn content. I'm very active on there. And that's a way that I found a lot of team members as well as clients. Super great channel for talking about your business and showing that you're a subject matter expert on something, while also engaging with other people. And just, I've had so many great opportunities there. My whole business is digital. So I'm very thankful, like COVID-19 did not impact us from a workflow standpoint like it did so many other businesses. So I'm feel very blessed in that sense. It did change how we approached strategy with our clients, but everyone's remote. So I'm based in Cincinnati. Our VP of Business Development, who's my business partner, Brittany, she's based in Biloxi, Mississippi. We've got people in the Philippines, throughout Europe, Saudi Arabia. So everyone's really spread out across the world. We're able to source talent from wherever we want, but we've been able to be, somewhat not impacted or unimpacted by that. But essentially, we and COVID really showed this. But every retail channel is volatile at some point. Brick and mortar hasn't been so volatile up until this year. Volatile in the sense that it kind of just shuts down. Things have, Amazon and e-commerce continue to take up and make up more of the revenue for retail in general. And so knowing that each channel has its own volatilities, especially Amazon, they can shut your product down anytime if they feel that customers are not satisfied. One person can make a safety complaint and your product could be taken down. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. So you have to be prepared for that. And if you've got multiple streams of income coming into your business, you're not going to be so worried about one channel getting shut down. It might affect your total sales for the year, but if brick and mortar's closed, like it was and still kind of is, during the pandemic, e-commerce saw a boost, especially things in the grocery category just skyrocketed. Companies that were not doing a ton before, the demand just grew so quickly. Now it's about, they've got in front of a lot of people. Now it's about keeping them visible in front of those people. So, and that's helped them to make up. If they weren't on Amazon, they wouldn't make up those sales that they were losing in the brick and mortar store. So it's really important to kind of hedge your bets in that sense. Every marketplace is not going to be right for you. Your products might not be suited for Walmart.com. It might be more suited for Amazon or Touch of Modern or any other kind of specialty retail marketplace. And that's something that I'm post about on LinkedIn, talk about in content, how it's important to go omni-channel. But I really see the future of retail involving more experiences. So going to a store, trying an outfit on, trying out a couch or something like that, and understanding, okay, this is going to work for us because there's this tactile experience that you need to have in order to really know if something's going to fit. Instead of just, you can, when it comes to clothes, you can also, purchase and try something on and return it if you don't like it. But you're going to have a lot more luck being in person. People are social. There's a reason why we have community and why community is something that uplifts us. We need interaction with other people. That's why you're hearing about a lot of people being depressed right now too, because they're stuck inside. They're not interacting with other people. So I see that becoming more of an experience, and then leveraging e-commerce technology, a lot of the technology that Amazon's pioneered from a logistics standpoint, to get it to you next day or to get it to you same day even. I see things evolving in that sense and it not totally being taken over. But if you're not omni-channel, if you're Amazon only, and I've seen this happen to brands that are Amazon only, Amazon shuts down, you lose your revenue, people start freaking out. I get it. I've had my account, when I was a seller, I had my account suspended, and it was scary. Sometimes it was for reasons that were outside of my control. Sometimes it was things that I had control over. And you always felt like you were kind of leaving things up to fate. And I think one of the things that has helped me in the service side, coming from a place of doing, a lot of people that step into service agencies or that are growing agencies revolving around Amazon have come from a corporate background. Maybe they've come from Amazon or they've come from a big CPG company, and now they're starting their own agency or they're helping grow an agency. And I came from a place of being a seller. And so I've been able to evolve and see, how Amazon has grown and how it's changed, but also get used to seeing performance notifications where your account is suspended. And instead of panicking, our team is able to go and say, okay, how are we going to address this? What do we know the steps we need to take? So let's get the ball rolling and take action. But it's not something that causes us to panic. And now we can consult these clients and say, look, this is very normal, or, hey, this is not normal at all. This is something we should be concerned about. We need to try all avenues. Long story short, it's important to have multiple streams, because one will go down at some point, And you need to be able to, especially because retail is just so fractured. There's so many shelf spaces and so many Shopify stores, so many e-commerce marketplace sites, so many brick and mortar stores, that you have to really be in multiple places to catch people's attention. And I think to be a sustainable brand.
So it seems like what we're really hearing is we need to leverage a bunch of different channels and a bunch of different platforms and not just be solely reliant on one. So if we're
Absolutely.
e-commerce and we're on Amazon only, we need to explore other marketplaces as well. Maybe we need to invest more in our own store. If we're brick and mortar, we need to understand where the world's going
Yeah.
and that a lot of people are going to be ordering online, especially during crazy times like a pandemic. And so we need to be going online. If we're not already, we need to be going online. And if we are online, but our main, the lion's share majority of our business is still brick and mortar, we need to invest a little bit more into online, whether that be our own store or hopping onto Amazon or some other similar marketplace. And then if we are online, but we're not on Amazon, we should definitely consider Amazon as another viable channel there. But regardless of where we are in our specific journey, we should be prepared for our main channel, whatever that is right now, to be disrupted or fractured in some way, shape, or form, and have a backup plan in
Yeah,
case
I
we
mean,
can't.
I think instead of just having a backup plan, you need to embrace the change. I like the idea of each channel kind of being a backup plan, or really just uh, something that upholds the archway. You know, every little piece is important, so you got to have all those things connected. And you know, if one of them and when one of them goes down, yeah, you want to have a backup so that you're not solely relying upon that one channel. I think the the change, it's coming, and sometimes it feels like you don't have control, but the best thing that you can do is lean into that change. One of the reasons why my business started failing, when I was selling products, I had a product that was doing well and I didn't want to mess with it because it was quote unquote doing well. Looking back, there's a lot of stuff I would have done differently, but I learned that embracing that change is important, and it's integral to really being successful when things are moving so quickly. Amazon unleashes all kinds of new features and beta programs and stuff like that. Lean into those things, try them, test them. You could be on the verge of something. You know, people that were beta testers in the advertising program got experience that no one else got an opportunity to get beforehand, and you got a leg up on people. So if you get access to certain advertising products like sponsored brands with videos, take advantage of that, leverage the change, lean into it, don't be afraid of it, because when you sit back and just perseverate on, oh, there's so much change and we don't know what to do, you're paralyzed and you don't actually take action. And what you need to do is step out, take action, and just get involved. If it's, hey, we're going to start a Pinterest page, and we're going to figure out how we can, leverage that to bring traffic to our own personal store or to bring it to Amazon. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. So, come up with a plan, lean into the change, but don't take, too big of steps. It's everything happens one little step at a time. So work in that way, and then hire people because you can't do everything yourself. Hire people who are better at you than things. That's part of that asking for help. Ask for help, and get help, in certain areas that you don't excel in, because you don't need to excel in everything. You need someone that's good in that area. And if you're good in, sales, but this other person's better in operations, you use that to your advantage.
I love the point about delegating and making sure that you're able to focus on the thing that you're the best at and bring on other people, find help in some way, shape, or form to shore up those weaknesses that you do have. So, with that being said, let's move on to the second part here. Now that we have an understanding of how Amazon really fits into our retail strategy as a very viable channel that if we're not already on, we need to consider getting on, not focusing solely on, but being a part of that
Mhm.
whole strategy. Let's talk about how to operate within that landscape most effectively.
Amazon is big, and they are far reaching. There's been recent antitrust hearings where, you know, some of the top CEOs were involved: Apple, Google, Facebook, Amazon. And we as humans, we have a tendency to mess a lot of stuff up. Let's be honest. But we have a tendency to look at things as black and white, or you know, A or B, and it can't be a mixture of the two. And that clouds people's judgment. So Amazon, I think it's interesting too, because Amazon is taking up more and more of the retail market and the e-commerce market, but they're also in data, they're in security. They purchased PillPack a couple years ago. There's a division called Amazon Pharmacy. They have so many different companies and things that they're involved in. It's not that they're even necessarily a monopoly, but they've grown in size. And it's kind of, I don't know that we've really had a company that has been involved in so many different fields. We've had, you know, telecom companies that got broken up in the 90s, certain mergers that were done. I think AT&T and maybe Sprint or someone else. AT&T was acquiring someone, and I'm pretty sure the FTC broke that up because it was going to be considered to be a monopoly. But Amazon's unique in that they're in so many different categories, but people have a tendency to look at Amazon as either a savior, it's the best thing ever, and they're drinking the Kool-Aid and there's, you know, nothing's wrong. And then there are people who are very negative and constantly see Amazon as a thorn in their sides. And I'm not just talking about, you know, brand. I'm talking about service providers who are helping people on Amazon who are constantly negative, forgetting the fact that their bread and butter is being supplied from Amazon. And we have a tendency to personify companies like they are entities and beings. And legally, they're not. They are a grouping of people, but Amazon is not uniquely out to get you. And if you just think about that from a personal perspective, it's actually $300 billion in total revenue from Amazon. But if you look at their filings, I think SEC filings, you see that the marketplace actually generated about 200 billion in sales. So 200 billion in sales, you're making $1 million a year on your site. You're making 20 million a year. How much of that makes up that 200 billion? That's a pretty small percentile. And so I honestly think people get a big head thinking Amazon is out to get them. There's a lot of stuff in those antitrust hearings about brands being ripped off. And I'm not saying that they weren't. Amazon has been very sketchy in how they talk about data. No, we don't use individual sellers' data to create new private label products. Oh, but we do use category data, which is comprised of sellers. And they were at, Jeff Bezos was asked at the hearings last week, if there were two people in a category, would you analyze that data? Yes. Okay, so at that point, you're getting down to a place where you kind of have an idea of what, how granular they can get when it comes to analyzing people's stuff. So they need to be more upfront about that. But Amazon's not out to get you. They're a business just like anyone else. And what is their mission statement? To be the most customer-centric company in the world. So when it comes to suspending an account and selling privileges because you think that someone could be doing something unscrupulous, they're always going to err on the side of caution because they want to be the most customer-centric business. They've developed a mobile app, so it's easier to shop because they want to be customer-centric. They don't want people spending a ton of time on the site not finding what they want. That's why they have a search algorithm. That's why advertising is a thing. All of that translates into being the most customer-centric company in the world. And they've got other pillars like product selection, price, et cetera. But it's important to remember that they're a business and they're operating like a business would. They're looking out for their own best interests. And so many people complain about having to pay for advertising. And that just kind of blows my mind because yes, the old world, it used to be SEO only, and advertising launched when I was a seller. And some of the stuff I was doing, I mean, it was like single keywords, really general, no clue what I was doing. But I did notice that there was something different that was going on because I'd run advertising. I would see these sales be attributed to these ad campaigns, but overall my product and all the things I experienced as a seller came in handy as a service agency. My business taken a big dive. We experienced a client that experienced that exact same thing, and we were able to get in and help them and save their business. So that was super cool. But I noticed that when we run advertising, we'd see this product grow in ad sales, but then total sales would grow too. And there's no report that shows how those two are correlated. But I always remember thinking, that's so crazy because we're getting more sales in general. Well, it turns out that Amazon is super unique in the fact that any sale contributes to your organic visibility. There's so many things that go into the search algorithm. Where's the product located? That's something that's been prioritized more. What kind of feedback does the seller have? What kind of review rating does the product have? What's the price point? There's so many things that go in there. But some of the things that Amazon really focuses in on are sales history and sales velocity. If you sell a product for, let's say, you have a ready mixed rice, and people look up ready mixed rice, and your product sells from an advertisement, Amazon sees your sale as more relevant to that keyword, so they're going to boost your organic visibility. And that's ultimately what you want, is investing in advertising. It's a must. If you're on Amazon, you have to invest in advertising. If you're getting on thinking we're going to spend, $500, $1,000 in advertising and we're going to really grow, you've got another thing coming. You've got a rude awakening. I'm not saying it's not possible, but you have to change your expectations based on what the marketplace can do. If you're in the beauty category and you've got $2,000 to spend on ads and the cost per click on average might be $10, you've got a very, very limited budget, especially when you're going up against the L'Oreals and the Clairol's and all the brands that are able to spend, 6 figures a month on advertising, aren't so concerned about profitability. It's more of a brand play for them. So you have to be super strategic in what you're doing, but you have to use advertising because majority of people don't go past the first page. How do you get on the first page organically without advertising if you've never sold anything or if your sales are low? You have to utilize advertising. And so advertising is an investment in the future visibility of products. That's something we talk about with clients all the time, but it's something you have to know. If you are wanting to gain more market share, you're on the marketplace or you're new, it doesn't matter. You have to use advertising to boost your product up to get it visible so that people will start to purchase the product, and then your product becomes more visible organically over time, and you're able to bring some of your costs down. You're getting a better return on advertising. Organic sales are making up more of your total sales. And so that investment, it could be the same amount, it could be more, but you're actually getting more from it because you've invested earlier on. And that's something that a lot of people don't recognize. Is it's not like AdWords. A lot of people go in, turn on a campaign. If they're not getting the return they want, if they're not getting a 2-to-1 return, they just stop it like that. On Amazon, it's very possible that you could have a ROAS of 25%. So you're spending $1 and only getting 25 cents back in ads. That's normal. And a lot of people freak out when they see a really low ROAS, or what Amazon calls ACOS. That advertising cost of sale is basically the reverse of ROAS. So you want to lower ACOS for all the people out there that are just not super familiar with Amazon metrics. But people get freaked out when they see bad numbers because they're expecting it to be maybe like a Facebook or Bing or Google or any other platform where you know how it's going to perform, and you don't have this organic component. And so one of the ways to be effective on Amazon currently, one is to not see them as an enemy, because they're not. They have built a trusted brand, basically a trusted distribution network. They have some products. But the amount of products that they have compared to the total market, it's not even a percent. It's very small, or maybe even if it is a percent, it's still a very, very small amount compared to the number of items that are on there. But they are in this to create satisfied customers, so they're not out to get you. They're just wanting to create a great brand, and you're getting access to that. You're getting access to millions of people that utilize the site every year, hundreds of millions of people, 100 million Prime members that really truly believe in the service, and they're willing to pay $130 a year or whatever it costs now to be a part of that service, to get stuff delivered to them quickly. Yeah, it's going to cost you money to do that, but they're not out to get you individually. And then it's just important to remember, going in, you're going to be making an investment. Don't expect to be profitable right away if you want to see big growth. You can be profitable and grow slowly over time, but you're not going to see the big sales numbers that you want. So you have to think about what strategy you're going to take on Amazon, because otherwise you're going to be super, super disappointed.
There was so much there.
I know. I'm really sorry.
I just want to.
There's a lot to unpack.
I love it. But yeah, let's unpack it. So the first part here is we need to understand what Amazon's goals are. And as a business, they're trying to generate the maximum amount of profit in the long term that they can by taking care of their customers. And one of the ways that they are taking care of their customers is to allow us to come onto the platform and share our products with Amazon's audience. So they're not out to get us. They're actually doing a pretty big service for us as sellers. That being said, they're still the house. So they're always going to be the ones that have control over the rules, because it's their platform. So we need to understand they're making decisions that they believe is in the best interest of their platform. And if we want to participate in that and we want to have access to their customers, then we're going to have to understand that and play by their rules.
Absolutely. That is so crucial to being successful on Amazon. Exactly what you said. It's their house. They're going to make the rules. You're getting access to their market. And, if you don't like playing by the rules, then get off the platform. That's a really harsh way of saying it. And some people just need coaching to get closer to that point, or need coaxing even to just, and more, more time to digest the concept of what Amazon is. But there's always that option.
So that's one part of it.
Yeah.
The second part is understanding the approach has to be a long-term approach when it comes to selling on Amazon, because there are a couple different facets of Amazon. One being the organic side, where we're putting our products on there, and based on Amazon's algorithm, they're going to rank products in a certain way. And we want to do everything in our power in order to show Amazon what it needs to be shown in order for its algorithm to put us as high as we can possibly get. So that's one piece. The advertising part, where we're almost buying our way in onto that front page, which is the prime real estate, that's another piece of it. And they work in tandem, and understanding how they work in tandem is a crucial piece. And just to make sure that we're reiterating here, one of the keys that you brought up that I actually don't think most people know is, when we're making sales through the advertising platform, where we're paying money to Amazon to show our products to more people, so that's not organic, it's paid.
Yep.
When we make sales through that paid channel, that helps us rank higher on the organic side. And so in the beginning, we're going to have to pay more to rank higher and to make more sales, or to make more sales rather, and that will then help us rank higher. So we're investing in the brand and investing in the ranking to make sales with the paid traffic, but also to bring ourselves up organically as well.
Absolutely. It's an investment in the future, and you have to you have to be willing to play the long game. That's something I talk about a lot, and you can follow the hashtag the long game on LinkedIn if you're on there, and see a lot of the content that I put out. But you have to be willing to put the time in and the investment in that and not expect to be profitable right away. It's a big sales channel, but in order to tap into those sales and to get big sales, you also have to be willing to invest big. One of the reasons why companies that might have $100,000 a month to spend on advertising can scale quicker is because they're able to access more of the market. They're able to buy more impressions and if the listing's set up correctly, get more clicks and get more sales. But they're able to scale quickly and get more sales and potentially cut back on their costs because their budgets are really large. But majority of our clients are small to medium-sized businesses. At least at Cartology, they don't have those kinds of budgets. And so some people might have, might have a $200,000 a month budget. Most people are probably closer to, I don't know, 20, 30, maybe even 10 to 15. There are some people who have smaller budgets and we're intentionally working with them, but we're very upfront and just say like, look, it's going to take time to really grow that. But you have to look at it as an investment, because if you go in expecting that return right away, you're going to be disappointed, and that's going to taint your view of Amazon. You're going to think Amazon's a sucky platform. Well, how come there's $200 billion in revenue on the platform and you're the one that's saying it's sucky? You have to know and understand how it works to be able to tap into it. And like you said about, kind of paying for higher ranking, we know that a ranking doesn't necessarily equate to a lot more sales, but it is a metric that we can look at and say, okay, we're selling about this many units at this rank. And when we were at this lower rank, this higher number, we were not making as many sales. So we see a correlation there. And that's part of how you get visibility. I mean, it's so simple, and yet at the same time so complex, because part of it requires an unlearning. It requires you unlearning some of the things you learned as a digital marketer and realize that you've got similar terminology, but how your advertising is going to benefit you is working in a totally different capacity.
That makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense. So I do want to thank you very much, Michael, for coming on to the show today.
Thanks for having me, man.
And talking a little bit about Amazon. I know there's so much to cover here, and we have
like
very
20
yeah, exactly. So there's no way we could cover it all, but I appreciate you doing a really good job of digging into some of these much, much larger concepts. And hopefully for everybody who's watching and listening, this can serve as a resource for you to help shift your perspective into a more realistic place when it comes to Amazon, and hopefully give you a little bit of a wake-up call, or a lot of bit of a wake-up call, on the importance of omni-channel retail strategy.
Yep.
And get you thinking about new ways to promote your brand, sell more products, and just be more awesome at this e-commerce game. So Michael, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And
thanks for having me, Ben.
And I do want to encourage everybody to go to LinkedIn to catch up with you and connect with you and see what you got going on there.
Yep. Just search for Michael Maher, Maher, or you can go to thinkcartology.com. That's our website as well. You're welcome to check that out. It's got some cool case studies and other things, but yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I'm creating content there. I'd love to hear what you have to say, even if you disagree with me. I always enjoy a good conversation. So
wonderful. Well, thank you again, Michael, and to everybody who's watching and listening. I want to thank y'all very, very much, and I will see everybody on the next episode. Take care now.